years, her phone has an upgrade anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, we're recording, so I just can't see it on this computer.
Okay. Sure. All right. Let's go. 308, call meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Aiken.
Here.
There.
Here.
Lake.
Here.
Scarborough.
Here.
And Tobias.
Here. Great. Let's see, what do we got here? Public hearing. I saw an email that said from Cliff. I'm not sure that probably was not included, right?
What email?
Email about asking us to reconsider the language about the turn lane and so forth.
I don't know if that would be at the site plan level or.
That's not part of this zoning text. This whole thing is to allow for the use in that area via a special use permit. Everything he was talking about in that email and everything that he has concerns about is stuff that needs to be brought up during the SUP approval process or application process, and it's the constraints that the council and the planning commission put on the applicant during that SUP process, which is what he wants concerns for. It has nothing to do with the language of what this public hearing is about.
Gotcha.
The problem is, based on the analysis provided to us by the planning commission and the planning commission liaison, it looks like the turn lane is something that, it's not going to be our requirement, it's going to be something that VDOT's going to require. Which means, good luck getting that one over with.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on that? Move on to the minutes.
I haven't read them for accuracy yet. So I will on Monday.
Same time.
Yeah.
Here. Moving on. Updates, I'm not sure, just a placeholder. Appropriations.
At Monday's meeting, I'll definitely have a not-to-exceed budget workup for this. Hopefully, I'll have all of mine in and be able to have an appropriate budget, but if not, it'll at least be a not-to-exceed budget. Steve?
So we're going to need,
I'm sorry.
I apologize, so we're going to need an A, a B, and probably a C on the appropriations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Got that good.
It
Not
was-
only we're going to need hers, his, and then the reappropriations for the budget amendments.
Oh, okay. You know, she brought that up earlier. I have it under agenda items for budget revisions,
All right, we can do it there. It doesn't
but
matter.
whatever. It,
Doesn't matter.
but at least it's
Since we're already talking about money, I mean, well, we'll just put it all in. Makes sense to put it all in appropriations just because we're going to reappropriate. We're going to have, so A should probably be the budget revisions, B and C being you guys.
Okay. I have a not-to-exceed number now, but, I mean, whether or not we want it now or at Monday, I don't care.
I'd love to hear that.
25K. And that includes,
What does that include?
the new telephone system, all the wiring to go with the telephone system, internet, and cable television, the alarm system, perimeter alarm system, and then the video surveillance system.
Do you have that broken up?
I do.
I know you and I talked about it briefly on Sunday with Saturday,
Chief, yeah.
with Chief. The alarm system that we currently have right now is just a motion sensor alarm system
Correct.
inside the building. No video
Correct.
surveillance, no glass
Correct.
breaking or anything. Are we suggesting that we go above and beyond that over here?
Not for the perimeter alarm system or the physical alarm system. But yes, we're suggesting adding a video system to that. I mean, it'd be separate from the alarm system, two separate items, but having a video surveillance system for in some interior parts of the building and exterior parts of the building.
Does that come with a monitoring cost, or is that a self-recording database?
Self-recording.
Onto a hard drive?
Yes. That you can then export. It will record for a number of days, weeks, month, depending on the size of the hard disk. And then you can export from that, if you have an incident, to save it before it overwrites itself, whatever that period is.
But that would be a want versus a need for relocation, correct?
Correct.
I mean, obviously, it's a good need, it's a good want, rather,
That
but
is
a
the
necessity for relocation is not video recording.
There's no necessity for it, and that is the one I mentioned to you on Saturday, that if we needed to make a cut for this current fiscal year, that we could push it to next fiscal year or after July, that would be the first place to make a cut.
Right. Because my concern is based on Rebecca's and Jim's and analysis and the numbers that they showed me on the reserves, as far as how much money we have extra right now for pulling here and there, and not knowing what Rebecca's not to exceed number is yet.
Mm-hmm.
Plus also not knowing what any potential change orders may be as the construction commences on the old post office. I would think that one of the best things to do would be to take care of the needs immediately. I mean, we're getting down to roughly 20,000 or so in excess funds right now.
Uh-huh.
But that's not knowing Rebecca's full number and not knowing what a change order may be at the post office. So my concern would be, while it's obviously a viable want, is it a need at this point? Because we've not had it in all the years that I've lived in town in any of our police departments.
Correct. And the chief said that it's something he'd like to have, but it's not a critical need. And we currently do not have that.
What's the cost on that, the estimate?
Well, that's the one estimate that is, they gave me a firm quote on a analog system,
Right.
which I've got experience with analog systems, and they're decent,
Right.
but it's hard to zoom in and get a license plate, get a facial recognition on such a system. For that, they recommend a megapixel system, digital system. And they were supposed to quote that to me today before this meeting, but I only got the one quote, not the other one.
How much was just the analog system?
Just the analog system was $9,800.
Just for video surveillance and recording?
For 6 cameras with a DVR,
Right, but that's separate from the alarm.
separate from the
video
alarm.
system,
Yeah.
$10,000.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Digital's going to be more.
Digital's going to be more,
Right.
could be 50% more.
And may I ask you, well, maybe I don't want to ask that in open session. I probably don't want to ask that in open session.
I can talk to you afterwards.
Yeah.
The video,
There's a couple of companies that I could probably recommend.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't have any
That do in the
preference.
area. Yeah. Like I know, for instance, at a retail shop around here, they've got a pretty good system put in place that is awesome. It records to a computer hard drive and has multiple cameras, and you can zoom and print and save stuff on CDs. And if you want to catch a certain 15-minute episode, you can export it on the DVD.
Right.
Yeah.
They pretty much all do that.
But I guess I'm the only one talking. Does anybody else think that that's a want versus a need, and we need to get them in there first?
I would say a lot. I'd like to see all your items broken down.
the video system was on Chief's wish list for the CIP, so I think Steve was just trying to combine efforts.
Yeah, no,
So, yeah.
Steve and I had conversations about this on Saturday, but at this point, because of the budget numbers, getting where the numbers are, and what we already have on our plate, at this point, I think we need to focus on needs. not once.
I have no problems deferring that.
And,
Yeah.
you know, if we can defer it and play with it in the budget. I mean, if you recall during our budget work session, we have currently still with pretty good numbers, a fairly sizable overage
Yes.
of revenues that we might be able to play with for CIP items such as that. And I have no problem with considering. But right now, with 60 days or so left in the fiscal year, and with projects A and B all happening at the same time, we really need to focus on the needs versus the wants. And I think at this time, especially since we have pretty close to 24/7 coverage, 95% of the time, for such a small town, I would think that a general order could be sufficed. Hey, make sure you drive past town, the police department every time you do a lap, you know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if we can have the broken out numbers on Monday, that'd be great.
I've
And I'll
got
give you
broken
a
out
couple-
numbers now.
Okay, and I'll give you a couple more names,
Oh, that's fine too.
just since we're not at the signing the numbers yet.
The wiring is 4,500. The telephone system's 3,500. And the alarm system's 5,500. However, that alarm system is every window and every door. And since we talked to the chief, we've talked about backing off to
Motions.
motion detectors in there, which should reduce that price.
Right.
I just don't have it yet. But that would be a not-to-exceed number, because that would cover everything.
4,500 for wiring? How much wiring actually has to be? I mean, call me silly, I don't know anything about wiring, but the building has telephone system in there already. I'm sure it has cable system in there already. What are we
It
actually
has no
wiring?
cable in it.
Has no, okay.
It has telephone, but to the wrong places, and we're not sure of the wiring capability there. It has no internet in it, and the police department, according to, from what I'm told, according to whatever rules they have to follow, they cannot do wireless. They must do wired.
Right.
So therefore, every place there needs to be a computer needs Cat5 cabling. That same Cat5 cabling or an additional line is used for telephone. So you're not pulling different wires and all that. You're
Right.
using the same type of stuff. And then only 3 places do they need coax for TV, like they have now. So
3 places?
3 places.
Are we going to be watching Sports Center at 11 o'clock at night? Why do we need 3 TVs in there?
Chief, deputy chief, and reception area. I'm just duplicating what they have now. And then
Wish I could get cable put in my house.
every officer's desk would have those lines to them, the telephone and internet. Plus, there's 2 quote-unquote conference rooms that I'm running lines to in case they want to plug in a laptop or something there. But again, this is one quote. We need to get 2 others. I've got somebody coming out Thursday to give me a quote on wiring, and so we can bounce it against 2 others and see who wins.
All right.
So Jen, you get that, it's going to be A, budget revision, B, Rebecca, C, Steve.
Now let's go to appropriations and move on to department reports. Bill, Bill? I do have a question, Jen. Did Lisa see this building report before? Has she seen it? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
If she looked at it yesterday and had it come out or not.
comments about billing? Move on to
I don't know.
treasurer.
So as part of what we were talking about in appropriations, there's going to be a number of budget revisions submitted on Monday night where certain categories have come in extremely under budget. Certain categories are coming in slightly or grossly over budget for a myriad of different reasons. So Jen worked to get a list of about $95,000 that needs to be moved around from category to category to category. The largest of which is public safety salary. But we'll have a list of that reviewed and ready to go on Monday. And to my knowledge, since it's just a budget, since it's a budget amendment and moving from category to category, we won't need a public hearing or anything like that. So I'll try to get this out to you guys via email by Friday.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? No? Police report? Thoughts or comments with that? Engineers report?
I have, well,
Oh, sorry.
Steve, you might be able to get an answer to this prior to Monday, or at least give Jim or Greg a heads up that I'll be asking. That is, one of the crime logs that we sent out recently, one of them alluded to us responding to Walmart and then the county taking over. And I forget the.
One of the weekly reports.
Yeah, one of the weekly reports had us go to Walmart for what to me appeared not to be a public safety danger or a felony. And I'm just curious as to why. I understand the concept of mutual aid, but we all had concerns when we were, previous councils and this council had concerns about us responding outside of the town's jurisdiction for non-emergency situations. And so, based on what I read in that police report, it didn't sound like it was an emergency situation or life and death situation or anything like that. And so my concern is, if we're doing the county's job for them, then maybe we really need to look at annexation, and push that issue, because quite frankly, that's not our job. And I understand the concept of mutual aid, and I understand what it means, and I understand what it does. But there comes a time where, that costs us money to go over there. Granted, it's 500 yards across the road, and granted, it might have only been 15 or 20 minutes of time, but who knows what happens over here during that 15 or 20 minutes of time. And so that's my concern. That has been my concern, especially with the development over there, which is why councils have talked about annexation and going to the county, with that being one of the reasons that we needed to annex that. And so, maybe we can just have a discussion on Monday night, a frank discussion about what our officers are going to respond to outside of the county and why, and whether or not council's okay with that. If it's a petty shoplifting thing, not my problem. We got petty shoplifting and shoots we got to do with. So, life and death, felony, sure, absolutely. Someone's got a gun, sure, absolutely. But
Maybe finding out the details too. Did they get the call? Did they are responding?
We'll get the details, and maybe we can pull records and see how many times we've gone to Walmart in the last 6 months since it's been open or something, and just try to get a figure it out.
Because if my memory serves me correct, it was almost like we were making this relationship with them over there, actually giving them the cell phone numbers of all of our officers and stuff like that. You all remember this? Where they were looking to...
I recall it, yeah, because they knew that we'd obviously have the response time. But the problem that I have with that is that that's costing our residents funds and monies. And granted, it may only be twice a week. It may only be twice a month. But at the end of the day, eventually that adds up, especially if it comes down to that it's a court case, then it's officer has to get overtime to go to court, which I think you and I have hopefully resolved on Saturday. But it just becomes the type of thing where how much is the county leaning on us? And to what extent do we have that obligation? Again, I understand mutual aid, I understand the concept, I understand what it means, I know what it means. But my question is, when do we need to be the first responder to a petty situation?
And I know that Walmart has donated to the department before too. I mean, if we get all the data, maybe we can figure out, is it worth it or not?
Again, it comes down to a donation notwithstanding, it comes down to a public use of public funds and public services. And quite frankly, they're outside the town anyway.
All right.
You know, I had the same problem when I see our officers going into the villages of Piedmont, our Peatcoat, you know, and it's like, what are you doing over there? You know, it's not the town,
4 houses over there. That's-
not on the left side.
Okay.
All right.
Engineers report, Holly.
Yes. We've been working on processing the request for award. Oh my gosh.
I told you I wanted to do, high definition surround.
We're working on processing the request to award through VDOT for the enhancement project. They've come back with some comments. I'm on the last round right now before they send it down to Richmond. But they try and catch all the comments up in Northern Virginia before they send it down to Richmond. So that should be going out today. The question that I have is if I get VDOT's approval for the approval of the request to award between now and Monday, will I be able to come to Monday and add something to the agenda to have you guys ratify that, or have we missed the cutoff for that? And would have to go into June.
This is for streetscape.
This is for the streetscape project. We're trying to get the contract awarded. And one of the first steps that we had to do is to get VDOT's approval. And then once we get VDOT's approval, I have to come back to you guys to say, yes, it's okay to award the contract to Finley. And what my question is I didn't put it on this month's agenda because I haven't gotten approval from VDOT yet. But it's a fluid situation where things are changing daily, which is why I said I wanted to give you an update. And my question is, if I get that approval from VDOT between now and Monday, will I at Monday be able to come to you with something in writing asking
Why can't
to
we just put it
award?
as a placeholder and if she has it?
It's better to do that. If
Yeah.
there's going to be appropriation of funds, no, you can't.
Okay.
It's not on the agenda. That's the trigger.
Okay.
So we can put it on the agenda today?
And then maybe just don't have the
And
information,
then
or you table it, or...
Do we have an idea of the amount of funds?
Well, there's the bid amount, but it's not that we're not going to go and pay him that tomorrow. This is, they will perform work and then bill us, perform work and then bill us, perform work and
So
then
it's
bill us.
authorization to proceed.
It's authorization to proceed with signing the contract with Finley that we are going to enter into a contract for the streetscape with you.
But the contract has a dollar amount.
It has a dollar
I
amount.
think you'd have to make Monday night.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we need to announce that on Monday night
Okay.
and put it on the agenda with the dollar amount, with the expected dollar amount. Because the contract is a contract, it's not going to be add-ons or.
Well, it's subject to if there's a change order or anything like that.
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
But I mean, it's assuming no change orders, there's, the number is the number. Yeah, that,
So do you want me to put it on there even though we do not have the VDOT approval? And then if we still don't have the VDOT approval on Monday, we just
say that.
table it?
Table it.
That's the way to go.
Okay, that's what I wanted to ask, is the appropriate procedure for that.
what's the approximate dollar, out of curiosity?
Oh, I think I gave you that in the last report, so I don't have that with me. I have it in my office. I think that it's 1.6 million and change.
Okay.
I have it in my office. I can definitely get that as soon as I finish up and bring it back to you. The other thing I wanted to let you know is we have been proceeding against D.R. Horton on both Sherwood Forest and Alexander's Keep for their erosion and sediment control violations. We issued formal notices to comply, which is we've done the inspections and we're doing ongoing inspections. They're not correcting all the measures, so we're having repeated violations. So the next step is to send out a formal letter, registered mail, to them saying you need to comply. We actually met with the developer on Alexander's Keep this morning, or at noon. They agreed to make the changes on Alexander's Keep that were requested. Because some of the violations are also in the county, we notified the county of the violations our inspector had noted on their site, and we have turned over the county issues to the county now. It's been our obligation and it's been our position all along that we had an interest in what was happening on the county side because it's draining the town water, which is why we have a stormwater management agreement with them. But now it's at the point for further enforcement of the stuff on county The county will handle that, CC us. They just promised that they will send us notification of their reports and stuff like that. And so the next steps, should they not comply, is that on Alexander's Keep, because the construction is basically completed, we would look into recalling their erosion and sediment control escrow and/or seeking civil penalties. Civil penalties means you go to the Circuit Court of Prince William County, said they are violating. Please set a dollar amount as a penalty against them. That is just legally, these are the options that we have. I'm not saying that we are going to do that, but that is the steps that you go. And that happens to developers when they do not comply.
Right. Have a good dialogue, because I noticed in Dan's report, he said that it looks like things were working very well.
With Dan, it wasn't just me, it was Dan, and it was our erosion and sediment control inspectors and the developer. There are some things where they still have not complied when we met today. It's something as stupid as, I don't know if you've seen it, I don't want to say stupid, but I don't know if you've seen it, sometimes in inlets. And inlets, have you ever seen something that looks like a big sock that blocks it? One of the repeated violations is just putting one of those in the inlet. And they promised us today that they would do that, but in the 2 reports that we've done in the past month, they have not. And so that was one of the things that we violated them on. In terms of Sherwood Forest, there was a lot more violations on there. They did not request a meeting on that property as of now. But we have sent the inspection reports that what our concerns are, and that since that is an active construction, the next step, if they do not comply, is to issue a stop work order for the site. They can't work until they fix it.
Okay. Jay?
Yes.
Is the next meeting for Sherwood also 5/6?
Yes.
Okay. And then I think, Jen, I just want to verify, you guys checked and made sure the escrow account and funds were in place and intact and good to go?
I did.
Because you said it was a letter of credit, right?
I verified one.
And it's valid.
Yes, sir.
On the streetscape,
Yes.
one thing I'd ask Jen and Sherry for, that I think they need to get with you on, is that, and I think you've kind of given me this in the past, but unfortunately in my 18 million emails on council, I don't have it anymore. I'm too lazy to go look for it. Can you give me a updated number of approximate dollars that are going to be spent on a calendar basis, on a fiscal calendar year basis?
Sure.
Ongoing for the project for the next 12 to 24 months. I know it'd be a rough estimate. The 1.6 million, you don't know how much work they're going to do in the first month of August.
I had sent something to you one time where I tried to look at it by quarter.
Yeah.
And I said, I think they're going to do like a half of the grading in this quarter, and this is how much the grading items cost. Do you want something? You're looking for that?
Yeah, the reason why is because
Okay.
we've got a certificate of deposit that has come due. So we have a week to figure out what we're going to do with it.
Okay.
And so I want to look at the monies on deposit for streetscape expenses that we have liquid versus the CD money, and see if it is okay for us to lock that money up there in a couple more points
Okay.
versus making it liquid because we're going to spend it in the next 12 months.
I will update that because the last one you saw had the engineer's estimate, not the bids.
Right.
And it would have been based off a different schedule since we have had to re-advertise. So
Right.
I will update that for both those items and get that to you.
Because one of the things Jen is working on, and I hope to have soon, is a complete accounting of our actual streetscape fundage, because some of the money got commingled
Okay.
back when James was doing things and setting up accounts, et cetera. But
Okay.
I know what the approximate number is of cash on hand,
Okay.
but we need to make sure that we've got cash on hand to pay bills as they come in, and then wait 30, 60 days for reimbursement from the state.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
just need to find out what to do with that money that's coming due.
Sure.
And I think I need to do that this week. I think council needs to make a decision on Monday on that CD.
Yeah, yesterday it matured, so we have 10 days.
I think she said 7,
Okay.
I don't know if she said 7 calendar days or 7 business days, but, I mean, essentially, Monday we need to make a decision.
Can I get the information to you by Friday? Friday will be okay?
I mean, push comes to shove, we'll we can talk to the bank, and if Monday's our drop dead date to do something, then we can just have her put it in cash, and then we can buy a CD later, if council's okay with that decision. Just take the CD that's matured, put it into cash, into the money market account. And then if we find out that we have time to spare, we can then find a CD that gets us a better rate, if everybody's okay with that.
I'm fine with that.
The problem is, if that needs to be done by Monday, I kind of have to have an affirmative from council now. I know we can't make decisions at a work session, but we can retroactively go back and say it's okay. So is everybody on the record with doing that if Monday's our drop dead date?
Yeah, as long as we're confident about the funding profile.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because if we have to do it on Monday, obviously we don't have a meeting until Monday night after spending.
Otherwise, we take it out of your paycheck, no big deal.
I know he wishes his paychecks were that big.
Council paycheck?
Yes, your council paycheck.
Okay.
Anything else here, Holly?
That's it.
Sean, report? For the packet, right?
One of the, jumping backwards, reading his report, code enforcement, brought up another thing for PD, Steve. The town has an ordinance about parking trailers on public streets.
Okay.
And there's been trailers being parked on Hunting Path, which are causing obstruction of traffic because they still don't properly enforce the no parking on the eastern side of Hunting Path. So, if they could just keep a casual eye out for that, please.
Moving on to our agenda items. Have Mayor veto.
So you want to discuss this now, David, or you want to discuss it Monday night?
If you have something to discuss other than what's in the packet.
Well, I'd like to discuss the fact that there's been numerous pieces of correspondence sent to you in the past couple of weeks that you've gone silent on and not responded to, and this was one of the issues that was brought up in one of those emails that council was CC'd on, as far as your actions after this vote was taken pursuant to your actions at the bank.
Okay, well, let's be specific. This is regarding the veto.
Which my email is specific to,
Okay.
and my conversation right now during this session is to ask you about why did you not answer the questions that were asked to you about the veto and about what you did after the veto at the bank, which had to do with something that was vetoed.
Right, okay, so let's go over to the actions about the bank. Jen, do you know where we have a copy of our policies and procedures regarding the signatures for the town?
It's just done by resolution of the council each council term. When there's a resolution we send to the bank, easy to sign.
Well, we don't have one that specifically says that you cannot delete a user from the account.
You can by council resolution.
You can only add or delete by council resolution.
Right, but do we have that in writing, saying for that? In other words, we don't have policies and procedures that explain, sort of like along the lines of most of these concerns. If we had a policies and procedures, then this could be cleared up, that we have a policy and procedures that says, hey, an authorizer can't be also a signer. You just go through these points that were brought up.
So council resolution can only be undone by council resolution. I mean, because every resolution of council is the word of the town that the clerk attests to. The clerk attests to the word of the law of the land is council. So
It doesn't,
Individuals don't make those decisions. The council, an action of council can only be undone by an action of council.
and that doesn't need to be put in print anywhere, I think.
Yeah, that's just.
Everyone up here, well,
what-
maybe with an exception, knows that. So,
So when this was a concern of mine, that obviously that the approver and the signature was a concern that obviously you brought up, Mr. Bias, I went to the bank and explained to the situation, asked them, how do I remove myself from the signature for these accounts? And that's where I was given advice that what I would need is something in writing, in letterhead, stating that I would like to be removed, my name removed from these accounts. So I did just that. So if you want to.
After you vetoed the resolution that removed you as the.
Well, I removed it. I vetoed the resolution for the personal tax. If the resolution had came before me without the 6 times that you put David Leak and David Leak and David Leak, then I would have been glad to probably sign that. And I think I sent you an email explaining that to you, that I understand the thought or the concept of that having the signature and an authorizer at the same thing. Okay, I get that. So.
I think you sent me an email.
can I comment?
Let me see if Mr. Device has anything.
I'm kind of looking for my email. What was the date of our meeting? April 1st.
First.
First.
Go ahead.
This is just the proper way to write this resolution. You would repeat the name. It was not personal. This is just the proper manner in which to write the resolution.
No, you could have done it, and you could have wrote that same resolution and eliminated the personalization out of it to make it a good resolution. The personalization, I think, as you keep going through it, appears to have repeatedly violated. Appears to have violated the spending. Did violate the adopted. Did violate the adopted. May have caused an appearance of impropriety. So there's different ways of doing that. And it was done as a personal. You know, so-
Well, I disagree. It's outlining each action that Vice Mayor Tobias laid out. If it had been me that had violated it, Vice Mayor Tobias would have written it the same way, citing my name
So
in each and every line.
have you ever wrote a check and signed a check to yourself?
No, I don't think I had one reimbursement check. No, that was cash. I don't believe I have. I can't be 100% sure. But I sign checks after they get authorized, so.
Correct.
She's not an authorized authorizer currently.
Correct.
The problem became a problem once our approver was separated from service, and you and I became the 2 authorized co-authorizers of any payment, i.e. it took both of us to authorize a payment. That is the resolution adopted by council. Then, this has become an issue, again, because you did violate, as I said, the issues in the, I don't need to read the resolution.
Right.
but The issue became you authorized a payment to yourself and then signed a payment to yourself and then took the payment yourself without it being co-authorized by myself. I'm sorry that you feel that this is a personal attack, and that's what you always scream anytime you don't do things the way you like. But these are the facts that outline the reason for the resolution. Had it been anybody else, it would have said Councilmember Scarborough, Councilmember Kenworthy, et cetera, et cetera. Unfortunately, they didn't do it. Had they done it, and had I felt the same way, I would have outlined their names the exact same way. You're the one who did it, or allegedly did it, depending upon which issue we're talking about,
Okay.
or appears to have done it. So, again, to get back to the original question, is the ending of the resolution was that you were removed as an authorized signer, and we replaced you with another council member. That was the intent of council, that was the desire of council by a 3-2 vote with one abstention that evening. You chose to say, no, it's not going to be a resolution of council to remove me, and no, it's not going to be a resolution of council to appoint another council member. So you basically said by vetoing this, no, I don't want to be removed, and I don't want to appoint Steve. But then you subsequently went down to the bank upon your own volition and upon your own actions and asked them to be removed, sent a letter to them to be removed. We're told that that's not how things happen with this account, that it takes a resolution of council, and that that's how they've always acted on this account, that everything they've always done has been by action of council. And then, come to find out, you didn't accept no for an answer, even after I called you out on it in an email. When I called you out on it and said, what in the world are you doing? You didn't take no for an answer, and now come to find out you've basically became demanding and demanded the same thing a second time recently, today. And so today you went back and tried to do the exact same thing today that you were told you couldn't do 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago, to which I called out in an email that you declined to answer. You obviously don't want to be removed as a signer because you vetoed the resolution that says remove you as a signer. The resolution spelled out the facts amongst it as to the reasons why. That's what all whereases are in the resolution. The whereases are the reasoning behind the actual resolution. So the resolution was to remove you and appoint Steve. You said no. But then you went behind council's back without any knowledge of anyone, including the liaison to the financial offices of the town, and tried to remove yourself. And then when you were told no, and when you were called out on it, you went back and did it again. To the point to which the bank rep is actually concerned about your behavior, and quite honestly, didn't feel that it was appropriate.
Well, the bank rep is the one that actually advised me what the action I did. How do you remove yourself? And that was the information I was given, and that's what I proceeded with. Now, then there was another bank rep, and there's another bank rep that then comes to play that says, oh no, that the town needs to have a resolution for this, but yet they don't have any policies and procedures regarding the removal of a signature. And that clarification, yes, has come today, and still is unknown at this minute, as far as I know, of what the bank's policies and procedures are for this. Not the town's, the bank.
The bank is following ours. It takes a resolution of council to be a signer. It takes a resolution of council to not be a signer.
So does anybody have the memory of when Susan Edwards wanted to remove her name as a signer?
And it took a resolution of council to do so.
And what happened?
Our council passed a resolution to reappoint a different signer, and a new signature card was filled out.
Right.
The way the bank operates is there's a valid signature card on file that lists the three.
Well, no, we understand all that, Davey.
No, apparently you don't.
Yeah, we
David,
do.
please don't interrupt me.
We do.
I was speaking. I had the floor. Don't interrupt me. Apparently we don't. Some of us do, but apparently you don't. There's a valid signature card on file. That signature card is the legal binding document with the town and the bank. In order to override that signature card, which was put in place by a resolution of this council in July of last year, this council would have to put a new resolution in place, which we attempted to do on April the 1st, that supersedes the resolution that was previously issued. Once that is done, the new signers can go down and sign a new signature card. That is how it's done. That is how it's always been done. That is, just because something is not drafted or written down or it's not an adopted policy or procedure, although the law dictates that a resolution is binding until another resolution overrules it, which we should all know, being that we're elected officials. Again, the issue here is you went behind the back of council. You vetoed something because you felt it was a personal attack, not because you didn't necessarily agree with the outcome of the resolution.
That's correct.
And I'm glad you just admitted that.
Yeah, it was a personal attack. And
I'm so sorry. But apparently you need to talk.
Well, no, it just.
David, it wasn't a personal attack.
Yeah.
It was the facts are the facts. You did appear to have repeatedly violate the procedures. Yes, you did violate the spending policy adopted by the hiring of counselors, namely my pay or Virginia. We addressed that as council. Yes, you did violate the policy of having invoices approved prior to issuing payments by my pay or Virginia. Yes, you acknowledge the fact that you took the check. These are all facts, David. You took the check that I had not approved, that I had questions on, to my pay. I'm so sorry, that's the other one. You took the check to my pay or Virginia and gave it to them before I even saw the invoice, before I could approve it, violating the council resolution that said 2 people had to authorize it. The other one is where you took the check made payable to David Leak, which you approved, that I did not approve, and took it to be payable to yourself. So you did, I understand it's reimbursable expenses, but it was not approved. David, don't interrupt me. Do not interrupt me. This is my floor. I am the recognized speaker.
Yes, and I'm the chair.
You violated the policies. That is what this stated, David. And I'm sorry that your feelings got hurt. I'm sorry that you can't stand up here like a grown-ass adult and take it when someone calls you out for your actions.
That's enough, Jay.
So here's the deal. You violated the procedures. Here's the procedures.
Do it somewhere else.
That's not profane. It's a word in the Bible.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry.
So I'm sorry if I just called you a donkey. So here's the deal. It's a fact. The facts are the facts are the facts. You disagreed with the facts because you thought it was a personal attack. David, I told you how to come across this and how
Is
to
there
take
any
care
other
of this.
discussion that you have relevant to this?
Yeah, I'm waiting to find out why you felt the need to go behind counsel's back. I've asked you the question. If you don't want to answer it now, you can answer it Monday night in front of an audience.
Why did I feel the need? I felt the need after reviewing the information and actually consulting with some people that maybe that this has the appearance that I would be a signer and an authorizer, so I went and removed my name. I did exactly what the bank instructed me to do, period.
But then after the bank contacted the clerk's office,
I haven't talked to the bank after
you talked to them today.
I talked to them. This is the first time I've talked to them since I've actually met with them to ask them what happened.
Okay, but I covered this in my email to you. I was very
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
I laid out facts. My email never got answered. You didn't respond to Vice Mayor Tobias's email. Luckily, someone higher up at the bank knew that this was not the proper procedures for a government account compared to a joint or a business account. So the bank did not act on it. I told you that in the email. Why would you then go back to the bank today?
Because I haven't spoke to the bank. It sounds like you might have spoke to the bank, or maybe the clerk has spoke to the bank, but I haven't spoken to the bank since the instructions that I were given of how to take my name off.
Okay, so apparently I
Yeah.
would lie. Okay.
I didn't say that you were lying. That has no reference to that. You know, obviously, the signature of the authorizer is an issue, and by removing my name from it ends the issue.
So you shouldn't have vetoed the resolution that removed your name from it and appointed
I
you.
said I would sign a resolution that didn't give personal attacks. And
It
that's,
wasn't a personal attack, David. I'm sorry that you are the mayor. I am sorry that you are the one that took a check and gave it to somebody before it was approved. I'm sorry that you're the one who took another check and gave it to yourself that wasn't approved. I'm sorry that you don't understand the hiring of contractors and the spending policy, and that, you know, apparently you may have misused the spending policy for hiring my pay in Virginia for numerous jobs. You know, I'm sorry that you don't understand it, and that it was a personal attack, but heaven forbid, had Steve done the same thing, this would have said, well, Steve's not a signer, but had Steve been a signer and Steve done the same thing, this would have had the Town of Haymarket council person, Steve Aiken, Town of Haymarket. This just namely outlines the facts behind the reason for the resolution.
Is there
Because
anything-
you violated the policies, you violated the procedures, and you did act improperly,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Yes. Would you please consider rescinding your veto so that we can do what you ultimately want done, removing your name as an authorized signer and replacing your name with Steve? And if so, if you rescind it, then you can sign the resolution dated April the 1st, and this can be resolved tomorrow.
The veto had already taken place.
You can rescind your veto if you like.
I'm not sure that that's you can't do that. The clerk is shaking her head no. If you wanna, yeah. Anyways,
Okay, then we'll just do it for you.
any other thing? We'll go into the town hall rental policy revision.
Just a recommendation from staff to kind of recoup the janitorial supply supplies, the burden, right here, in the budget, the reflected is the town hall staff, all of the supplies that are used, whether it be water or the extra cleaning or various other things.
Now, where I didn't see, I thought in the past that there was some kind of waiver if you were a town resident. Has that been addressed, or is that keeping the same?
That's what we're kind of removing.
Oh, okay.
There's a standard janitorial fee no matter who you are.
Right.
Because every group had a resident in it. We haven't had collected a fee for the town hall in many years.
Except for the church.
Yep.
So,
The church has been,
a resident.
for the last, how many months?
Yeah, they paid, what was it, twice, and then they realized they had a resident as a member? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think it does exempt, or I think she recommends exempting the HOA.
Yes.
Do you just want us all to read this and have comments on Monday for discussion?
That'd probably be a wise thing to do.
All right, so for events outside, like Haymarket Day and that sort of thing, are you, or does that mean we're going to be charging our event staff, or is this starting in July? 33? And the other thing is, no alcohol, but is that will that change if it's a licensed event? For the
Not
fundraiser?
inside the town hall.
No, outside,
It just says in the town hall.
It says, or on town.
or on
property.
town center property.
I'm on page 4 of 7.
This
So
is, yeah,
read, the
at the top.
second line under O says, or on town center property.
Oh, yeah, no.
So, for example, like the ladies' breakfast thing will then actually have to comply and tell you the fees.
Correct, because it, that's actually pretty heavy to use on the faculty facilities.
Right. Are the changes all highlighted in the red ink, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Those were the things I picked up right off the.
Just off the top of
Yeah.
the policy, we can all read this, I guess, when we come back on Monday, but the very top one, second line, second sentence or whatever,
Uh-huh.
those properties are available for use at the discretion of town manager, with town councils. Town council ultimately has to have some say, can't just be the manager. The manager's discretion, but we can give, the council needs to direct the manager on whom he can give permissions to versus not for certain uses, et cetera, if there comes a conflict or something like that. I think,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I'm not
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
There would be, the discretion of the town manager also has to be at the wishes of the town council. So,
We could give him a standard list of things that would be automatically approvable and others that we want him to come to us if there was something outside the ordinary.
right, something extraordinary.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how to phrase that,
Yeah.
but that's exactly what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say, something extraordinary.
Okay.
I don't think we're going to
Heaven forbid, CNC gun shows wanted to come have a gun show at town hall. While I'm a staunch supporter of the Second Amendment, I'm not sure that the county or the town rather would receive that very well.
But if we start, do we run into any problems if we start renting it out and then determining who can and who can't?
I'm sure there's some problem somewhere.
Yeah.
That's for the attorney to decide, which I don't believe any of us are. I just want to, there has to be some sort of check in place, in my opinion. I'm one person.
I would just say at the discretion of town council. I mean, the town manager is the agent of council. So I would just say council, and then we can direct him as to yay or nay. I think that's just the easiest.
Yeah, I think if we state like it's, an HOA meeting or a church gathering or a charitable thing, you know? I mean,
Nonprofit.
that's usually, yeah, what we do here anyways.
Well, it's the
I
problem
mean,
with
I
the
don't
church
think
thing.
we've done a birthday party or anything, and,
Yeah.
Yeah, the church thing is one of the issues that has been causing staff some issues with lighting issues, cleanup issues, food issues, toilet usage,
right, but if they have,
sanitary issues.
if they have to pay, if everybody has to pay.
That's what I'm saying, yeah,
Right.
instead of giving
Right.
away, you know, quite honestly, I think there should be a fee for everybody, even HOAs. I mean, it doesn't have to be an outrageous fee, but, you know,
It does cost to have somebody in here.
and quite frankly, I don't believe that I think the kitchen needs to be a higher fee than what it is, because quite honestly, that has been one of the sticking points for certain members of staff, is that they come in after a weekend where town hall was used and the kitchen had been used and not cleaned up, not, you know, wiped down, trash everywhere. You know, it's just the type of thing where it's a nice amenity to have, but, you know, when you go to rent a banquet hall somewhere, it's more than $25 to use the kitchen, to use their appliances,
Yeah.
and use the electricity.
But wouldn't you just take the deposit at that point if it wasn't cleaned properly, and you came in on Monday and it's like, okay, here, take a picture, this is what you left, and, you know, this is what we're gonna take your money
Right.
to, needs to be cleaned. I mean,
Right.
I think we should charge
Sure.
and take money if they don't clean it up. I mean, come on now, we're all adults. Clean up your mess.
And the other
It's not
problem,
hard.
the other thing that needs to be addressed, and again, I haven't read it, I just saw this today, so, is it addressed in here, the current events that we currently have operating, that per contract kind of have the use of town hall and town center property at the ultimate discretion of council? Council does have the ability in that contract to rescind that authorization, i.e. spend the day in Haymarket, birthday, 4th of July picnic, yada, yada, yada. They in times past, they used the space gratis. Are we saying that we're going to now charge them for the use of that space
Right, that was my
above and beyond their stipend that they have to pay us when they have to close the streets? And where do we come into play with that? I mean, I don't think that would come into a problem with our contract, because it's ultimately council's discretion in the contract for an event to use the town hall space. We can say, no, you can't use it anymore, period. However, if you want to pay a fee, you can use it. You know, I think it definitely needs all of us to read over and come up with some thoughts and stuff. It's a good start, and I like the idea of trying to recoup the fees, or the cost rather, and the expenses.
Right.
I don't really like Ann on page 4, though. I mean, really? I remember a time, not too long ago, that there was a crate full of puppies in here, and they were all cute, and everybody loved them. Heartless people, you.
Is that a rule or regulation?
To June?
I-
Can I go over this to June?
No, I think if everybody just reads it over the weekend, we can probably hash it out on Monday. It might just be might be a hashing out meeting.
Charity's the one to offer this,
Correct.
so maybe we send our comments to her to draft up
Okay.
any thoughts or comments on that one.
So comments to share
Yes, please.
by Friday.
Thursday.
Well, it's Tuesday afternoon.
It's Friday morning.
I mean, I mean, honestly,
Why don't we
the only-
just bring them back and discuss them? She doesn't have to type them all up.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
Yeah.
And that's just extra work for.
So comments changes on Monday.
If we all go through it, make our own comments, I mean, we've already discussed it briefly now,
So Monday.
if you find anything else that, you know, you can't live with or that seems weird, then make a note of it and we'll go over it. How about that?
You must be a mom.
Work smarter, not harder. That's what being a mom is all about.
Zoning permit applications, anybody see any issues with it?
I have a question for Marshawn and or Rebecca on this one. So this is the property, it's the Durham building property,
Yes.
that when they wanted to put in the soccer thing, it basically was going to elicit all of these necessary modifications and changes and.
Trigger a change of use, yes.
Right. So how does this welding or machine shop not do that when the previous use was a automotive repair facility?
It falls under the same subcategory of repair shops, that kind of thing, so.
So by putting a blacksmith shop in here, none of the site plan improvements, none of the building improvements, none of the code violations are now triggered for compliance?
From this site, yes. From everything that got triggered when we looked at the soccer facility, but we've discovered other things down there that can still trigger corrections. But this guy can still go in there without having to do anything, yes.
But the other issues that need corrections, if they're not corrected, does it make sense to allow another business to move in, regardless of whether or not it's grandfathered or not?
Legally, we can't say no.
Explain.
Well, since it's not a change of use, we would be violating our own code. We would be very subjective, and I think Lisa would tell us that, no, it's a no-no, we can't do that.
Well, then what happened with the building on Madison Street that was a retail shop for dogs, Arthur's Court, when the building inspector decided to violate them when the consignment shop took over? Because retail is not a change of use. However, they were violated and potentially held up their occupancy or business license, one or the other, until they fixed an issue there.
Because our former inspector mistakenly thought he had condemned that building, and he had not. That's what caused the error with that one.
So our code allows us to have a business go in there that was, quote, a like use, and even though the site and or the building has other issues which could potentially make it not inhabitable or occupiable. Well, that just doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make sense.
Well, because it's grandfathered in. Now, if this business had come back September 1st, no, he wouldn't be able to go in without the site coming into compliance.
What is the time frame?
2 years. If it was vacant for 2 years, and Rice Tire had even come, was it Rice that was in there?
Yeah.
And even if Rice Tire had come back in, if it had been more than 2 years, it would then be, all the site plan stuff could have kicked in.
And whose data we're using for when Donald Rice Tire vacated?
Their Donald Rice Tire's declaration on their deed poll is August 11th.
So we have his business
That's
license that
20.
we've got to trigger?
His business license says when he left town.
2011.
Yes.
I don't doubt that the PC did their due diligence, et cetera, et cetera. I just, from a things that make you go, standpoint, it doesn't make sense that you
Oh.
can have an allowable use go in.
Trust me, we'd like to fix the entire site. We really would, unfortunately.
But does this then make a need for code modification? I mean, 2 years seems like if I operated a building and I left and nobody operated it for 23 months, they sat vacant for 23 months, but then Steve wanted to go in and put a T-shirt shop, if I operated a T-shirt shop and then Steve wanted to go in and set up a T-shirt shop, but the building's been sitting vacant for 23 months, there's nothing that says we can go in and do an inspection and make sure that the site plan and the site is occupiable prior to just saying, okay, Steve, since you're a T-shirt shop, you go into business?
Is there a different, and maybe I'm confused here, but is there a difference between safety things, and which we can do at any time, and I guess you call it site plan things where this is where we want to go with this
No.
site?
Right.
This has to do with stormwater and drainage.
Oh, so none of this is safety?
Paving and, no.
I thought there was building safety issues.
I'm assuming those will have to
No.
be corrected.
Yeah, I thought that there were building safety issues.
Well, there were certain things with children in the building that they were going to have to do when this was going to be the soccer place. But for the welding place, they're not, just like to bring this building up to code behind us for the PD to go in might be $2,500 to $3,500, but for us to bring that up to code for a daycare center to go into it again, we're looking at tens of thousands of dollars. So it's different safety.
Is that something we could call the fire marshal to do an inspection of, or safety inspection? Or
He's actually,
He's supposed to.
he's actually asked for all our addresses in town to do,
They've had them for several weeks now.
yeah, so
So-
we're just getting into the groove.
so?
Well, shucks.
It's
So to hold
easier.
on until it has a safety inspection? I mean, is that something that we could do?
But you
Well, I think the
definitely
safety
have to build-
inspection would shut them down.
They
or
can't get an
issue a
occupancy
cease.
permit until those things happen, right?
Well, I mean, I guess my argument is that we can't not give them a business, whatever, a certificate, a zoning permit rather, based on the issues that I had. But if our building inspector goes in and finds safety violations, then he can revoke an occupancy permit.
Yes.
Which is my biggest concern is safety less than stormwater, but
Yeah.
I understand the stormwater is an issue.
So is there any actions that need to happen between now and Monday with that?
No.
I don't think so.
Okay. Moving on, food pantries request. When's their lease terminate?
December 31st.
Yeah, this year.
I think we need to hold off on this. My thoughts on this, we need to hold off on this while council looks at the Harrover property, the vacating of the second Harrover property building, and future planned use of the property. And I would hate, first and foremost, I don't think I'd do a 5-year. Personally, I wouldn't recommend doing a 5-year anyway. One of the things Steve and I have talked about, Rebecca has talked about, I've talked about with Jen, and I've even briefly talked about it with Mary Lou. Talked about it with Kat, talked about it with
No.
just about everybody who will return an email. Or see me face to face, one or the other, is what we're going to do with that property and what the appropriate use will be once we vacate the PD, whether it becomes a community property, whether or not we sell it, whether or not we do any number of things. So I think before we enter into any binding lease agreement, we need to have that discussion, and I think that discussion will happen pretty rapidly in the next 3 to 6 months. So I don't see this as being a pressing issue for us.
We get to June, it becomes 6 months, it's pretty pressing for us.
And I can understand and I can accept that, but unfortunately, the town needs to put its citizens and all of its residents' best interest first versus one tenant's.
And if we,
And we could always obligate, we could always just extend it on a courtesy month-to-month basis, but the town needs to look at their overall use of that property.
I was just going to say something similar to that, that if we get to a point where we're not making progress on it, I mean, instead of 5 years, maybe 1 or 2 years.
Right.
Where we're pretty confident that, okay, we're really not going to do anything
Right. I don't think
immediately,
we're gonna do
but
anything.
5 years is a long time.
Well, I know.
you-
That's why I
you
asked
can-
for
You
it.
can have
I thought Pam asked for it. She signed
She
it.
did.
you can have a 5-year.
I'm sorry, what's
We
the,
discussed it.
shall we, oh,
I was
okay.
going to recuse myself anyways.
I was just curious if we should have a discussion of that here.
You can have a 5-year lease. The important trigger is to have the wording in there that gives you an out of 30 days, 60 days. That's the important part, is having that trigger.
Yeah, but I think 5 years is ridiculous, and honestly, I have a fundamental I have a fundamental problem with the town. When the town used the land, as we have been for the last couple of years for the PD, we used part of the land, and this is what Steve and I were having a debate and a discussion with Chief Roop about on Saturday. When the town was utilizing the land for public use, for public necessity, for public safety, I didn't have a problem with the town paying a note on property that we were utilizing ourselves. The property was purchased in August of 2005 against my best wishes because we didn't have a plan for the property. It's now May of 2013, and we still don't have a plan for the property. We've been paying for this property over and over and over again. We're going to vacate the one building, and then we're going to have a big grassy field and an abandoned house and another building that's being occupied by a charity that is necessary in the area, unfortunately. but at a tune of $1 per year, that's very, very gracious. So the town continues to dump money into this property, and they recoup nothing of it, other than providing a community service attribute of having a charitable tenant there. So does the council want to look at expanding the community services offered by that property, and that is what we're paying for? Or do we want to leave it as a vacant building and one occupied? That's all the conversation that we need to start having, and I think once we get the PD, once we are further in motion with the PD moving out of there, we can continue to have that discussion. There's been dialogues with certain representatives from the Boys and Girls Club. There's been dialogues with a small organization that wants to do a small school. There's been, every 3 or 4 months, we get an email from this kid in the area who gets tired of being chased off of the Bloom property for skateboarding. He wants a skateboard park. And
Shouldn't he have gone to college by now?
but my neighbor, he's
Yeah.
28, he's but there's all sorts of number.
Back in college.
There's all sorts of number of
that's right,
community
it's
uses that we can all decide to obligate it to, or we can look at another fiscally responsible thing, which is, does it make sense to sell it? And if we sell the property, do we sell it and condition the development and use the proceeds from that to develop this property the way we want it? Or thirdly and lastly is, do we keep giving it away? Do we keep paying money down the drain, so to speak, with no revenue coming in? And do we refinance our debt and get cash out to fund the rebuilding of this property? There's a big discussion that's not a 10-minute discussion here that we need to
All
have.
right, yeah. I mean, we
So
could-
that's why I think that this is not a pressing issue for council at this time. And my motion on Monday will be tabled until at the earliest September. Because that gives us 4 months or so to talk about it.
Yeah, but they didn't give the food pantry very much time to make plans for themselves.
Right.
I understand that, but unfortunately, I'm not on the board of directors for the food pantry, so my duties and our duties rely to the voters of the town, not the food pantry in the town. Our duties are solely reportable back to the residents and the voters and the citizens, not the tenants. That sounds harsh, I'm sorry, but it's fact.
Yeah, well, there is part of our charter that kind of makes this kind of as part of our duty to serve this way.
Well, I'm perfectly keen on what my duties are and what my communication duties are with the residents and what my communication duties are with each other. But again, fiscally responsible service to the residents is number one. And I don't, there's plenty of ways for the food pantry to start looking at other options and exploring other options in the meantime. And I think September through December is plenty of time. That's 4 months. It doesn't take that long to execute a contract or to find property. And if I were the organization who was curious about my lease being up to date and whether or not my lease was going to be renewed, I'd be exploring options A, B, and C, not just keeping in my back pocket that I'm automatically going to get a favorable lease renewed. So again, it comes upon the onus of the organization to cover their P's and Q's, not ours.
It wouldn't be unreasonable to add a year addendum to it to give everybody a little breathing room as well.
Not necessarily, because depending upon what council decides during that discussion, which we can have at another time, when everybody is here, because we're missing 2 important ingredients, someone might say, let's sell it. Someone might say, they called a realtor and found out we could get $25 million for it, let's sell it. We don't know what the facts are. So at this point in time, I don't see there's a pressing need to obligate the town to an extended lease of any shape or form when there is 8 months remaining on the current lease. So again, my motion will be to table it on Monday night.
Okay, sounds like we have given that enough discussion. I'll see anybody else.
I thought we were done 10 minutes ago. David kept on.
Zoning text amendment.
This is all about the funeral home allowable use in that area and the ability to go after a SUP.
Right. No particular funeral home, just that it's allowable if with an SUP.
It's potentially,
Yeah.
well, it's an allowable use with a special use permit, and then
That's fine.
that's when all the other data comes in. I'm assuming that Lisa has given her approval on the Z2 that is done with that.
I would assume, I get this from Marchant, usually once it's got it through legal, so I will double check with him.
Yep, that's all that I would worry about.
Okay. Ordinance to adopt transit occupancy tax.
This is something that Jennifer brought to our attention, and I told her to proceed with it and with the due diligence behind it. Essentially, it is a hotel tax. We don't have one.
You need one.
We don't have one, and I'll continue talking and not be interrupted by the mayor again. But it's potential that there is a piece of property that could potentially have one developed on it. And it is something that we need to consider and have in place before that property gets developed. So it's something that's missing in our tax code. This just basically gives us the right to adopt one. It doesn't necessarily adopt a certain tax rate. It just says that we have the ability to do so. Pretty cut and dry, and this has been vetted by Lisa, I know.
Actually, I think it does say a rate.
I thought you said it wasn't going to obligate a certain rate.
I can remove that, it's 5%.
That's cheap.
Yeah, that needs to be up.
That needs to be way higher. When I was in Nashville, I paid 23%.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you get a $79 hotel room, the next thing you know, you got a $100 bill. You're like, what in the world is this?
Okay.
It would be nothing to be like a 10%. I'm
You
not sure
know, it
what
would be
Prince
nothing to
County-
be whatever the county is.
Yeah, it
If
should be the same.
If the county's 18, then, you know, so that needs to match the county.
Okay.
We can always be nicer, but I don't think it's necessary. That, a hotel transient tax rate is one that does not impact our residents, and it is certainly a money generator, should it ever happen. Although the latest proposal by the property owner where it would possibly be happening, it doesn't look like that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's not to say Dottie can't get her bed and breakfast eventually.
That's right.
These are the same budget revisions. Just review those, please. Jennifer and I will be working to make sure they're all right. They all look pretty good to me. The biggest one, as we mentioned earlier, is the public safety salaries pursuant to overtime.
Actually, wouldn't the biggest be the building official?
Man, that is the building biggest. one.
Yeah.
That is, yeah, it's quite significantly larger.
Yeah.
Damn, Marchand. Well, I just cursed Marchand. Sorry.
No, that's building official, not planner.
Damn soil consultant. So these all, you know, this is money that doesn't look like.
So
it's-
this is the additional money needed.
The third column is the amount needed to amend, and the fourth line of it, the fourth category is where we're taking it from.
Oh.
And I'm not going to
okay.
adopt these by 1, 2, 3. I'm going to see attachment A, because I ain't going to read all these. So if you can properly encode this with resolution or attachment, whatever you want to do. Because I don't want to read all these, unless Lisa tells me I have to. But Jennifer and staff and Rebecca and I have looked at all this, and it looks like if we make all these changes, we should be good through June 30th, barring any unforeseen catastrophe.
closed session, there will be one, that I know of, potential tenant negotiation. So you can go ahead and list that for the old post office.
Has he contacted you?
Yes, yeah, been back and forth with some information, and it sounds like you'll have at least something to send to the council to make the packet, so, or to make the closed session, but I'd like to at least list it on there.
Do we have any correspondence from him or her or them currently that we could share with council?
Not an open session.
Obviously.
Yeah, I'll be good. Well, we don't have a letter of intent, no. He's working on a
Do we
letter
have information from them so the council can have an idea so they don't walk into the meeting blindly?
to the closed session.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll.
Can you send that under
forward it.
attorney-client, please?
Yes. Yeah.
Will you please,
I said I would.
well, I'm
Thank
just
you.
trying to make sure it's recorded, that you send an email.
All right.
We do
Anything else
have
for
discussion
closed
of the town attorney, correct? I'm
Yes.
assuming A1 covers that?
You can go in whenever you need to. This is
This is just listing the references.
suggestions.
Yeah, well, at least by putting a place marker, we won't
Right.
forget.
So town attorney.
If anyone has any additional questions they would like answered, please get back to me. The 2 questions that were asked, I do have answers for. So if there are any additional questions, please get to me so I can have the attorneys answer them prior to our meeting. From discussions with council members offline, I think a majority of us are in an agreement that, no, we do not need to bring these firms back in to interview them yet again. So, any further questions, please get to me ASAP.
That being said, with your informal polling offline of council, does it make sense for us to invite the proposed selected attorney representative into closed session, just to have them here and to hopefully maybe facilitate a transition that evening?
Since there are 2 members I haven't been able to sit down and talk with, I don't have a problem with it, but I'd prefer to talk to the other 2 offline just to see where they are.
Does it make sense that if,
I think we should invite them.
does it make sense that if the current leading candidate, based on economics and based on qualifications, if no one has any serious objections that can't be answered with a quick resolution that you've already done, does it make sense that we should invite a representative from that firm to come here that evening? Granted, it's a small area, and I'm sure that that firm already knows our current attorney, but we're working under a time crunch with our current attorney.
Okay, I like the idea. I need to check with you.
Oh, really?
Oh, by the way, did you have any questions about?
No, I think we're probably in agreement, but once I talk to her, I'll know.
Based on the previous recommendations, et cetera.
Hopefully what I'm thinking is what she's thinking.
Well, there was one email that came out with a question about potential conflicts of interest, and that's a silly question because
No,
obviously
I wasn't
you just hire-
concerned about that.
Yeah, you would just hire another firm.
Yeah.
We're the same as we've always done.
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
No.
All right.
What is, do we need to go into, is the part of closed session have to do with, I guess, an issue that's arisen with a tenant upstairs about paying for some repairs or some
I don't think there's an issue.
changes? Has that issue been resolved?
It hasn't been brought back to.
Hasn't been challenged. As of right now, it sounds fine.
Got it. So we're going to advertise for the streetscape, this 1.6 number.
The contract, yes, please.
How do you need to,
I just have it.
I mean, okay. Whatever you say we got to do.
Oh, one other thing.
1,663,447.76.
Up on the top, if we call to order and do the pledge, a moment of silence for the Boston and Waco, Texas, or Texas victims. I'd like to add that to the top.
I'll just take that updates out, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you all for coming out.
Oh, I missed the adjournment. Okay.
Technically, I don't think we can adjourn.
Yeah,
This is
what
what
I was
it
told so many times.